Ithaca presents Kingmaker, Secrets, Lies, and the Truth About 5 Prime Ministers, written and read by Sir Graham Brady. To Victoria. Introduction. Boris Johnson was on his way to a dangerous meeting. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and he had just finished Prime Minister's questions, which is normally the worst bit of any leader's week. But as he walked back into Downing Street, Johnson gripped a memo from his advisers, preparing him for an even worse encounter. They were worried that the man who wanted to meet him was going to try to get others out of the room, so it was just the two of them. Do not let him do this, the note urged. This briefing, photographed when Johnson inadvertently left it on view as he returned to Number 10 in May 2020, was about me. Titled, Meeting with Sir Graham Brady. It read, "Following an exchange between you and Graham, he has asked for a catch-up. This is the first since December. It is important that at least the Chief Whip stays in the room. He will, as he has previously, seek to ensure that it is just the two of you." It went on to warn that he will seek more regular meetings, but insisted, don't agree to anything. The author was Ben Gascoigne, Johnson's political secretary. This is one of many memos to 5 different Conservative Prime Ministers that warned about the apparent dangers of meeting me. For almost the entire span of the 14 years that my party was recently in government, I was chairman of the 1922 committee, which, depending on your perspective, is either a sinister parliamentary cabal or, more prosaically, the forum for Conservative MPs to make their voices heard and ensure their leader understands them. Perhaps, to those in Downing Street, the latter description is the more frightening, because had those 5 Prime Ministers made better use of the 22, as we call it, we might have had a very, very different 14 years. The 1922 committee is more than 100 years old, and is the closest thing the Conservative Party has to its own trade union. I was elected its chairman in May 2010, just a few weeks after the coalition government formed. This job meant I was in the room with 5 Prime Ministers at some of the most important moments of their tenure. I was the one who watched their faces as the bad news hit them. I was the one who tried to persuade them not to pursue courses that I knew would tear the party apart, and the one who listened to their horror when they realised what they'd done. I understood their flaws, both from my dealings with them and from the way my colleagues would come to me with their complaints, and I was the one who announced, to pin-drop silence, the name of the next person who thought they would be up to the job of leading the Conservative Party. I can't say that when I took over as chairman, I imagined Boris Johnson would get anywhere near Downing Street, let alone be warned not to meet me alone. By the point that he received that memo in 2020, I had dealt with 2 Prime Ministers, and I had arranged the replacement of one, too. I had seen them up close, sometimes with shoes off and their feet on the table, at others clammy, tense, or even tearful. The Conservative Party turmoil was going to get even worse from this point onwards, though, and Boris and I would have plenty more meetings, not always with the chaperone, before he became my 3rd, former Prime Minister, and a new leader was being briefed about the dangers of meeting me. Something else that I could never have predicted about chairing the 1922 committee was just how much time I would spend working out how to get into Downing Street without anyone spotting me. By the end of my tenure, I had an extensive knowledge of all the entrances, concealed and otherwise, connecting the Prime Minister's office with the rest of Whitehall, and the times when journalists were most likely to be lurking outside them, in the hope that I might bustle past on my way to tell yet another leader that the game was up. There are frequently hundreds of journalists camped out by the famous black front door of Number 10 Downing Street, so I tended to favour the back door, which faces out onto St James's Park. There is also a tunnel under Whitehall, which is only for use in a nuclear war, and a secret passageway from 70 Whitehall, so secret that camera crews are almost always stationed outside that address. When it was time to have the terminal meeting with my 4th Prime Minister, I was asked to come to Downing Street's back entrance, but I still had to work out how to get to that back gate without being seen. I got off the tube at St James's Park rather than Westminster, and
Sample complete. Ready to continue?